Hello, and welcome along to this session, How to Avoid Being Burnt by a Sage CRM project. I'm David Beard. I'm the CRM principal with Sage CRM here in London, and I hope you'll stay with me for another 25 minutes or so as we run through some high-level concepts around project management and how to be good at doing it. So, the concept of running projects in Sage CRM. I'm going to cover what seemed to be an odd set of themes, but I hope it will make sense by the time we get to the end of this. I wanted to give you some concept about the application and why it matters and how it works and how that impacts a project estimation and management capability, because it speaks to this idea of business and project competencies. And then I spent some time identifying and talking about what is a low risk project and how to make the most of the technical application or the application in context and its strengths. And importantly, I'll touch on packaging and offer too. I'd encourage you, if you're interested in this particular session, to also listen into the session from Danny about offering Sage CRM in a 3-5-7 fashion, because these two things will work quite neatly together. So first of all, this idea of the application and the context of it and how this matters to estimating and running a project. Now, Sage CRM out of the box offers very rich capability along these business functional lines: sales, marketing, and service, as well as the core stuff like managing contacts, managing interactions, those sorts of things. The product and the way it is configured is an important context to keep in mind and the implications that has upon the project. The product sits on top of a SQL database. It attaches and runs all sorts of business logic, if you will, through the core and out to other things like email services, and delivers the output across a number of clients. Typically, the browser is where most people use it, but it can be delivered to mobile devices through self-service portals and through clients like Outlook. And there are a whole bunch of other external capabilities as well, where the product, through its APIs, will connect and interact with data and other services and other systems elsewhere. But it's this piece at the bottom I wanted to focus on. And in particular, I wanted to speak about this idea of the metadata in the product. What do I mean by that? Well, the metadata is really all about managing the who can access the system, what rights do they have. The what inside the metadata lets you set up or configure things like system settings, field names, field layouts, templates, those sorts of things. There's also the when context of metadata, which is things like business rules and where they are looking out for changes in data or changes in time to fire an alert, to fire a notification. And the where, and this is where documents are stored, data is stored, and how messages are displayed to the end user. Don't worry if you don't kind of see this immediately, and don't feel as if you have to scribble it all down, because these sessions will all be recorded, so you can always go back and look at them again. Just follow me through the context of why this matters in the context of making a project work well. So this metadata control is stored mostly inside the database. That's why we talk about the product having a lot of configuration capability before you even get to the full-on customization. And for many, many customers and many, many partners who work with the product, the configuration is often more than enough for what they need to achieve inside their implementation for their businesses. Let me talk to you as well about business rules and how business rules work within and upon the metadata and the data itself. And in particular, I want to focus on 4 clumps of what I'm calling rules, right? Business rules. This idea of policy rules, logic rules, process, and data. Let's go through one after the other. Now, a policy rule is something like you're seeing on the screen here. Again, don't worry about reading everything immediately. It's just go with the discussion. This idea of you can have policies in the product that lets certain people only see certain sets of data, or only certain teams can look at certain opportunities, or only a workflow, a workflow only applies to a certain team or a certain way or a certain piece of business. So this is contextual control through the metadata using the business rules of getting the product to map to a business's need. And all these things on the screen, by and large, are very simple configurations. There's no programming here. There's no days and days worth of getting it customized just right. These are typically just point-click setups within the product. Let's have a look at logic rules. Logic rules include things like scripts. Now, there's a little more technology and programming thinking here, but only a little. And the idea is with logic rules, you can stop things happening or warn a user when something is wrong, and things like that. So again, this idea of configuration control through setting up these logic rules that are fired when a screen is saved, where a data field is changed or is greater than a certain amount, so that things happen. And again, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, these are configuration, generally, capabilities that are very simple to do. No hours of programming. You've also got this concept of process rules. Process rules, usually most people think of as workflow or workflow enabled. The workflow engine in the product is extraordinarily strong and does all sorts of great things. And it's very simple to fire off or set up either script triggers or workflows to say, do something when certain conditions are met. So in the top example I've got there, if something is set as an opportunity at stage lead, then fill in a particular variable called the certainty percentage as 10. That's a simple, easy to do part of workflow, point, click, done. Similarly with the bottom one there, send an email to a support manager. So you're a customer account manager for a customer, a support case is closed successfully, the account manager, but by another team, the account manager gets an email. Again, very simple configuration within a process rule. And finally, you've got business rules or data rules, as I've called them there, sorry. And this is the idea that you've got certain activities that happen when something changes. So I used sort of an example of that in the previous one, but another one might be, when a case is updated, so a customer service person has updated a record, you might, as the account manager, want to go and have a look at the internal tracking notes to see what was done internally on this particular case versus just knowing that the case has been updated. Okay, so this data rule tracking or data rule setups. And again, configuration, not customization, simple configuration here. And the point of using those examples, and there are thousands more, I've just picked a few, is to prove the point that implementations and thus the project management of these implementations can be carried out by people who are either super duper code heavy people, or equally, if I build all those up, just people who are good at pointing and clicking and setting up the configuration once they've understood the basics of the product. So even bullet point 4, I've made a sort of comment there about our accounting reseller partners around the world. If you're used to working with accounting systems and you think, oh, CRM sounds a bit tired, and sorry, not tired, difficult for me to get on, and I'm tired and I don't want to do it, it's very straightforward to set up a configuration system and configure a system to get working. So the difference between accounting and CRM is really moving your head, particularly if you come from a world of accounting, moving your head from this concept of transactions and invoicing in history and things like that to this idea of a front office task, whether they're marketing, selling, or service. And understanding that you're configuring the CRM part of it all to manage the capture and transition of information around an organization in those front office roles. And I use that image there because I think it's important. It's both simple and very detailed at the same time. If you've come from a world of getting account systems in place, it's a different game with CRM, but rest assured the product is relatively straightforward in most cases to configure to suit the needs of those departments and those processes. Let's get to really the key of this session, which is project management. And as I said, this will make a good bookend to go with the other ones, including the 357 session and the technical surgery, perhaps. Sage CRM implementation projects are constrained, like any project, by scope, time, and cost. And you can't shift one without impacting the other. If you've been involved in any sort of project management, you know this to be a universal truth. Quality will suffer, or some other dimension will suffer because of that. If you take away some of the money, perhaps the scope comes down, perhaps the quality changes. The reasons the CRM projects fail are typically highly unlikely to be related to the product. I often, in all my years with the product, hear the story, oh, CRM fails, so we're not putting it in our company because it never works. It never works generally, as proven by this survey by a project management outfit, because it's about the business of running the project. It's not about the product. And in particular, the number one thing on the left-hand side is poor requirements definition. This idea that you need to understand what you're putting in and why. If you attended the pitching CRM to the non-believers session earlier, I speak a lot about that, this idea of really drilling down on what the company, customer, stakeholder, department is trying to do, and then how to manage and sell the value of that. And this is the same here. And if you connect these two sessions together, you can see how measurable value here helps you define requirements here. So how should you put in CRM? Should you go all out and do everything at once? Should you phase it? My recommendation is always that you phase it. Why? Because there's a risk element you could immediately dial down by doing small chunks quickly and one after the other, rather than big bang. Big bang is inherently riskier. There are more people involved, there are more moving parts, there are more things that are hoping to be done by date X, and there's more risk that something will drop and impact something else. I think the other thing I like to quote, and this becomes a bit of a Rumsfeld statement, is when people are implementing CRM for the first time as a business, as a customer, and maybe they're not used to it, they're certainly not used to putting in CRM systems every day, they don't know what they don't know, particularly at the beginning, right? So it's very difficult to do a big bang on something when you're not entirely sure what it's going to look like at the end. If you go step by step, and I've used phases of sales, service, and marketing there just as an example, people will understand a lot more about what the product is doing in a particular department after phase one, and what it might mean to phases 2 and 3 if they're done one step after the other. And if you're a reseller of our product, it's also, for you as a business, a better way of managing risk and managing your own consultant time to make sure that you've got everyone equally engaged and delivering the value that customers expect from you. An implementation process for Sage CRM is similar in many ways to many other products. This idea that you design up front, you gather requirements, you think about the measurable value, you think about the priorities, and then you roll into the iterative build cycle, which is installing the software, setting up the base configuration, what are the drop downs going to be, how are the users set up, where are they based, what currency do they use, what language, all those things. And then you roll it out to production. And by production, I mean making sure the stakeholders involved test and are happy with the delivery, and it's giving them what they need to be getting, and so on and so forth. And planning, or the approach, it's a project like any other. So reflecting upon my earlier comments in my other session, the key business measures are what we're trying to get in here. You know, what are you trying to do per department, per business process, per product line, whatever the thing is you're measuring. Establish that business case and the matching KPIs. We're hoping to get 3 people to be able to produce quotes in 20% less time than they used to, one example. That will help you drive out a plan, and that'll help you cost the delivery. It'll help you figure out who you need to be on the project and when. And then thinking about the triangle, what are the time, quality, and cost priorities? And then you can roll through deeper into the design, through the schedule, implement, making sure you're updating teams, you're checking on progress against the business case, against your timelines, and so on. And importantly, at the very end, always take the time, no matter how tight the schedule is, to talk to the stakeholders about, well, we've rolled out phase 1. We expected to deliver measurable thing 1, 2, and 3. Have we got them? If not, why not? And what have we learned on the way? Again, if you've ever been anywhere near any sort of project management thinking, this is 101, right? This is not unique. But time and time again, I see people not doing this, no matter how quick the first phase, second phase, third phase is. And it's so important to reflect on what was done well and what didn't go so well either, because people should learn. And if you're rolling phased rollouts, of the product and of the implementation, it's even more important to learn as you go, because you're going to save yourself potentially a lot of pain later on. So thinking about the project and thinking about the phases, if you will, the 1, 2, 3, and I've used the same examples from before. I suggested sales originally, I think, up front for phase 1, but you have to make the decision based on the top 5 priorities, for example, of your business. But start asking and start thinking about, well, what modules do we want to get going on first? Now, the base level modules will be, the contact management, the interactions, those sorts of things. But are you dropping into sales? Or maybe it's service, because that's the focus. And think too, if you look at the number 2 on the screen, this idea about focusing as much on delivering the value, delivering the thing using configuration of the product wherever possible, that metadata conversation I had earlier, versus customization. It's faster, safer, and easy to unpick if you want to change things. Customization, potentially writing code, takes longer to do, takes longer to roll back. So think hard about configuration first for ease of use, ease of deployment, cost, and a whole lot more. 3 and 4 then becomes the discussion about, well, do we hook it up to the accounting system to start with at this point, or do we have another system or another portal we want to hook it up to? Do we want to attach it to other things like our email system to have automation through emails and so on? So think about the extensions, the integrations that will be referenced. And along the way, and 4 is at the bottom, but it really applies right the way through 1, 2, and 3, is what we're doing realistic per phase? Is it realistic in terms of time impact upon the customers I'm working with, the day job that they've got to do? And is the way I'm managing the project okay? Because I've also seen in many cases a CRM project that wants input and some internal management, and that's good from a customer. But when they end up spending 3 days a week doing this as well as their day job, do you know what? After a while, they're not very happy with that. So think about the project management approach. And all the while, it should be iterative, because the planning and goes into the analysis, but eventually when you get back to evaluation, there will be things you've learned about the product, about the people, about the teams, about the time that should go back into the next phase of planning to help tune it, tweak it, make it better. So to borrow a phrase from Jeff, proper preparation prevents poor performance. Think as much as you can about configuration, or no code, as Jeff has called it there, and think carefully about doing anything really deep down and gnarly. Focus on the configuration in the product, the point and click, the easy to set up stuff first, and think about how you will take that forward. And if you do get into customization, either now or in the future, make sure you are thinking about the person who will look after the system in the future. Code commenting, making sure that the code is as clean and as smart and as well laid out as possible. Danny, as I mentioned earlier, will be talking a bit about Sage CRM deployment in 357, as he's called it. I would also make the same point that offering packaged implementations is particularly important. Why? Because packaging a story, be it for a team, be it for a phase, be it for a certain set of modules, makes the delivery known, and hopefully at a fixed cost as well. Because you, as a customer, of course, you want to know that you're going to pay a certain amount of money and receive a certain set of feature or functionality back. Nobody wants a project that just blows out. The customer doesn't want to keep writing checks and worrying about when they'll get the delivery. The partner, if you're a reseller, you don't want to be worried about being dragged around for ages on a project that never quite ends. That makes sense from both sides. I think too, if you're in a reseller partner, or even if you're internal to your own company, this idea of CRM step by step becomes a concept of account management. And if you're a customer particularly, I think partners know what I mean by this, but if you're a customer particularly, take this idea. If you're going to be some sort of CRM champion in your business, it would make sense if you go around on a quarterly basis, monthly basis, whatever that might be, to have a chat with your fellow stakeholders and say, How are we doing on this CRM thing? The bit you've got now, is it good? Is it doing what you expect it to do? Or we're coming to your department next. What sort of conversations can we have about what you need, how you would measure the success of it, and then what we can do to start planning? So account management internally, I think, is just as valid a concept as it is externally. And if you're a partner, bullet point 4, a reseller partner, then managing in an account management fashion gives you hopefully a steady stream of sales income and service income. You can extend and manage your implementations and keep the customer happy. And hopefully the customer will stay with you because they trust your advice, they trust your delivery, and helps you particularly look after your customers and stop them from maybe leaving to go somewhere else because you're doing the right delivery for them. You're proving that you can deliver a service, a functionality, a wrapper that helps that business succeed. So packages, think about those. If you're a reseller partner, particularly think about these, but supposedly for customers as well, this idea that think about where you start with CRM. So maybe it's simple CRM, it's 5 users, 5 days, 5 reports for a value of X. That could start the CRM ball rolling. And then at the other end, it could be that you want to do almost a sort of a big bang, but not quite, where you go for 2 or 3 teams at once, or you really do one department to the nth degree to make sure they're doing exactly and getting exactly what they need. So really this screen is probably more for our reseller partners. But again, I make the point to, if you're a customer, think about the way you might deploy CRM internally. And that should sort of give you some ideas, I think, about packaging a story. I mean, people in their own lives are used to buying packages, be it for televisions or mobile phones or whatever. So the concept should resonate with more people. That's what I believe. So if you're a reseller partner, the idea of a consultancy exercise would be helpful so that you can then bash out a few ideas about what might be interesting and then produce some sort of proposal document that says, based on these X number of priorities, we thought that you should do this, this, and this, and here's the amount of money. And that will help you package the delivery and package the story to the company that you're dealing with. And similarly, if you're inside a customer, this idea of packaging up where we're going next on the project is just as valid. It's just another way of the same story. It just happens to be an internal narrative you're dealing with here. This idea of understanding, right, so we're going to deal with this department first, and this is the scale we're going to deliver, and here are the measurable value pieces, and here's how long it's going to take, and so forth. Because at the end, as the bottom box notes, it enables the customer, internal or external, to see pre and post project what they wanted, what they got, how it measured up, and what that investment has delivered for them against their business. And it's always good to go back to those measurable pieces of investment, because people want to feel that they are getting what they expected from the product and from their spend on the product. So whether you're a reseller partner or whether you're an internal stakeholder customer, the idea is this Sage CRM offer is it right for the business? Is it flexible enough to grow inside my team and my business generally, so that I can answer the question, have I made the right decision on the product and the priorities with which we're deploying it? Is the organization on board with me? Are we all heading in the right direction in terms of the strategy? And is it value for money? Because like everything in life, if it's not value for money, why are we doing this? Why don't we just sit on our hands and use Excel or anything else that people are using instead? So thank you for listening to that. I hope that's been useful. I hope it's food for thought, both as a reseller partner and as a customer.